So, a warm welcome for our next speaker, Martin Woodward. And Martin is the VP for the .NET Foundation at Microsoft. Now, some of you may not know what the .NET Foundation is, but we as a company, Firely, we're immensely grateful for what Microsoft has done in the .NET area because we depend highly on what Microsoft is doing. Maybe, Martin, you don't know, but we are a Microsoft shop.
Okay.
So Martin just told me that he's here for a talk on what Microsoft, well, I think Microsoft reinvented itself, right? It's all open now, for which we are also very grateful. And Martin is going to talk about what openness means, and open data, open standards, what it means for Microsoft and what it means for the community.
Yep.
What it means, and I think that's actually one of the reasons why Microsoft is now deeply involved in the Fire community, for which we are, third reason, also very grateful. So Martin, please, can you fill us in on what you're doing?
Great.
And what your philosophy is on openness?
Yeah, super. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And it's good of you to build this stage so we're all at eye level. So that's brilliant. So thank you very much. The people in the Netherlands are so tall. It's frightening. Okay. So my name's Martin Woodward. Martin Wu, or Martin at the .NETFoundation.org. You can get, that's how you shout abuse at me on Twitter, at Martin Woodward, if you want to. And that's what I look like, in case you forget, by the way. So I work on the .NET Foundation. 4 years ago, this very week, we open sourced .NET. And it's been a wild roller coaster of a ride since then. The .NET Foundation sits at the heart of the community, but it's the whole community of projects that sit around the .NET umbrella on all the different operating systems and from TVs to servers. It's been, it's gone really well. Over 60% of the changes to .NET Core, to the heart of .NET, actually come from outside of Microsoft now. And we have a technical steering group that has people from Red Hat, still Red Hat, not IBM yet, and Google and JetBrains and Samsung, all helping steer the future of .NET. So it's become a truly open community. One of the things that we've seen from that is just things we never expected when we were open sourcing. For instance, David Fowler, he's literally one of the smartest people I know. And then I saw this tweet the other day where he was like, somebody's optimized this thing he wrote using a De Bruijn table. I can't even say that. I have no idea what that is. And he was like, this is amazing. If you see interesting pull requests coming in, but we also see people building amazing things like a PHP compiler for .NET. Like, who would have thought that's even possible? Certainly, we didn't have that in mind when we open sourced. JetBrains built a thing called Rider, which is a cross-platform IDE for .NET. Competes directly with Visual Studio, but it's fantastic because it gives customers more options, more choices. And speaking of choices for developing studios, somebody built Continuous, which is a .NET development environment for the iPad, And Edit and Continue works. I don't know if there's any Visual Studio users here. Like, it works on the iPad, but doesn't work on Windows yet. What's going on there? But anyway, amazing stuff that they can do that's incredibly powerful. Now, back in those days, it was a bit of a surprise. When we open sourced .NET 4 years ago this week, we won the internet, like Hacker News, we were all over it. We landed a robot on a rock. We landed a robot the size of a microwave on a rock 320 million miles away that same day, and the internet was more surprised about Microsoft open sourcing. That's how much things have changed. So, and the company has changed, as you said earlier. It's a very different company to it was now. And I've had the pleasure to be part of this journey, both through .NET and helping set up the .NET Foundation, but also through the Git project, and then through some of the memberships with the Linux Foundation and things like that. It's truly been an amazing journey for me, seeing the company transform, and it's been fantastic to be part of. And obviously, just this week, we announced the Fire server for Azure as well, which is fantastic. So when we do and we went and, bought GitHub as well, which is cool. So now we get to provide GitHub with the resources and make sure it can grow and continue to be an awesome home for open source developers and for all developers globally. So I'm really thrilled to have them on board as well. I actually created Microsoft's GitHub account back in the day. It ran off my credit card for a few weeks, which is quite exciting. And then now we are the largest org in terms of the number of people in our organization on GitHub, which is just an amazing transformation to see. So whenever we open source things, now luckily there's some people here who are as old as me. Most of the people won't know this. This is Microsoft Bob, okay? When we open source things, I often get a lot of questions. We open source this. Why isn't this open source? Why isn't Microsoft Bob open source? It costs us around about, to take a legacy code base, it costs roughly about $150,000, $200,000 to open source something, to get it to build using recent compilers, to get it to make sure it's only got code that we can make available as open source. So why do we do that? When do we make decisions to work in open source? First of all, before we drill into why we don't, here are the reasons why we don't. Okay, here are the anti-patterns. And if people have ever tried to sell one of these to their bosses, then shame on you. But I'll not tell anybody. But these are the reasons inside Microsoft, until we made our changes, why we were often open sourcing things. It might be to do with public relations. Oh, it would be great PR. Awesome. It'll be great goodwill. Goodwill's fantastic and PR great. They give you karma. But you can't take karma to the bank. You can't take karma to Wall Street and get money with it. So we're a business after all. So they're not long-term business goals. They're short-term hits. And it's no good just doing something for the short term in open source. You need to be there. You need to be with the community and help the community grow and develop. The other one is around recruitment. Yes, it's a lot easier. People are a lot more excited about working for Microsoft now. Now we're a lot more open. But that's not the reason to go open source, because again, it's not going to be sustainable if you don't have a business model to back that up. I often talk to people about the contribution funnel inside Microsoft. So this is why people get involved in open source. When you release an open source project, 99.9% of people will just come by and they'll just consume your application and never speak to you. And that's fine. That's what open source is about, You've got to know that that's going to happen. A tiny percentage of people will give you some time, will contribute bugs, will give you work items, will translate your code into a different language, will write a blog post about your project. And that's fantastic. But you need to think about, how can I get a certain percentage of my people from using into contributing? How can I make that easy? How can I have contribution guidance? How can I have a good README? How do I maximize the number of people coming down that funnel? A very small percentage of those will then give you actual code you can use, will fix a bug, will give you a little bit of a feature. Only a tiny percentage. And that's fine. But how do you make that easier for them to give you a feature? You do that by, when they give you a little bit of time, you welcome them into the community. You're responsive to their pull request when they fix a typo. You say thank you. You give them sparkly hearts. You are encouraging. You're welcoming. You put your documentation online. You do all those sorts of things. You have a build. You have a CI build. All that sort of stuff. And there's a tiny, tiny percentage of people who give you code who actually stick around and become part of the community. And that's what's fabulous about being here this week, is seeing the community that's growing up around Fire. And it just fills me with hope that this is going to be a really excellent, vibrant community. So it's fantastic to be here. Thank you. Remember, when in open source, again, this is advice I tell Microsoft, open source communities value code. Like, talk is cheap. Everyone can say, oh, yes, I'll help. You know yourselves as, when you work in open source projects, there's the side project you want to do, and then there's the ones you get round to doing. That's a lot smaller, okay? So open source communities value code over everything. And the only way you can have influence in an open source community is being there with them, helping work on code and developing code out there in the open. So within Microsoft, we tend to think of open source projects fitting into one of the three buckets. Collaboration is how we are more agile by being open source. So .NET is a great example. Trying new versions of .NET is really, really hard. People don't want to do it. If you make .NET open source, you're getting live feedback on the very latest check-in. You can iterate a lot quicker. Similarly with Fire Server, it's about getting feedback, being able to work in the open with the community and get live feedback on something, rather than waiting for them to use your service or whatever based on top of it. Then over on the other side, you've got things like Git and Linux, where we are taking critical bets on those open source deliverables. So we need to invest in that community and have people who can code in that community to be able to fix bugs and to be able to contribute value and make sure that project goes in the direction that we want it to go to. We contribute to Linux, so Linux runs faster on Azure. That's business sense. But it also runs faster for everybody else. And by contributing to Linux, it means we can influence and have a say in where Linux goes, which we need to because we've taken a critical bet on it for our business. So by shipping and being out in the open, it helps us to innovate, to iterate more quickly. And as we look at the market today, 50%, this is some research by InnoSight, 50% of the current S&P 500 will be gone in 8 years and be replaced by the new up-and-coming companies. Disruption is out there in the business. So you need to look and you need to be able to see how you can be high-performing, how you can iterate quickly. If using DevOps technologies and using open source as well, we're seeing companies that are doing high-performance iterative delivery, delivering 4 to 6 times faster and having increased revenue. This is data from the State of DevOps report. If anyone hasn't read it, go read The Innovator's Dilemma. It should be required reading for Microsoft management, how to spot disruptive technologies and then how to handle them. It's a fantastic book. But with all this disruption, why on earth would companies like Microsoft and, we've seen Google here and AWS here this week as well, like why would these companies get involved in open source? The answer is that open source is not a zero-sum game. By being part of open source, we get to, by encouraging innovation in open source, we get to create opportunities that just wouldn't have existed without it. We all are stronger together than we would be alone. And we're also seeing it's not just the big companies that do this. Innovators in each of the different areas, innovative companies are all involved in open source projects as part of them and have an open source element to their business models. So we announced a joint statement for healthcare interoperability, about the large companies, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, and IBM, Salesforce, all around, we think it's vitally important for healthcare data to be open, to encourage innovation, to enable the things that we haven't even dreamed of yet. And FHIR is the leading edge of that to make that happen. It's vitally important for the sake of our future planet's health that we have new innovation in healthcare, and the only way to do that is to have open data, as you all know, because you're all here already, okay? So what I want to do is just sort of, I'm part of this journey. I was part of this journey. This is of the Microsoft org. I was a very small part of this, of a much larger community that's been part of this change and that helped change Microsoft for open source. And there's me with all my, and that's actually me zoomed out into some of the contributors to the Microsoft org. But what I wanted to do this afternoon as we're coming to an end is just really just to take some time to thank everybody. Thank you all for, coming here, listening to me talk in my strange English accent. But also, thank you for all the work that you're doing in the open source community. And really, when I have a bad day, like code doesn't compile or a service is down, you know what I mean? That's not important. You're out there saving lives with your innovations. And so really, I just want to, thank you for saving lives one pull request at a time. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you, Martin. Maybe you have, no, we don't have time, but we do have time for one last question. Who has a burning question for Martin? Graham. Hey, Graham, this is Graham Grieve.
We've met already, yeah.
So I want to expand the FHIR community away from code to clinical communities, to documentation. Do you guys have any experience in growing open source outside code and starting to influence business?
Yeah, a little bit. With not always successful as well, I'll be honest, because it's a very different community, because the value proposition is very different to people. With code, why are you helping? It's because you're going to get better code out of it. Why should you contribute to for a developer? You contribute to an upstream open source library because you want your changes to be in that library so that when you pull it down, you get your changes plus all the other changes that everybody else has included. You know, the value proposition for somebody contributing to documentation is different. So we've done some stuff around helping users contribute to documentation. Some of it could be easier, you know, because it's all Markdown based and they have to kind of learn that. But we've had a lot of success by making it very, very simple to be able to contribute, and then be responsive by, as soon as they contribute, actually getting those changes live quickly. And we're finding if we can keep that loop as quick as possible, then like a dopamine rush comes in and they get the reward loop. So that's the only way so far I've found. Clinicians are a nightmare because they're quite shouty and they have strong opinions, as we all know, and not always the correct ones, but they hold them very, very strongly. And so the key there is to identify key people within each of those communities who can be your beachheads and really drive you out and be your evangelists within that community and give time. And then as they bring documentation, try to be responsive. That's my only, but it's hard. That's why they call it work.
So it's dopamine.
Yeah.
Yeah. As always. So Martin, you told me that you're flying back to London.
Yeah, that's the taxi driver.
Yeah, so
right
the
now,
taxi
actually.
driver is here, and Martin just told me that he will fly to London City.
Yeah.
On the back of a motorbike, race
on a plane to London City.
Yeah, and then the motorbike to London, and
Yeah.
then you have another keynote.
Yeah. So you can follow my progress if you go to aka.ms/where'swoody. You'll see me live traveling to London right now. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for being here, and safe travels.
Thank you very much.